marks the end of an era for a series people once loved. And I'll never return to Monster Hunter Wilds if Capcom doesn't fix the worst problem, and it's not performance. This is how you do online journalism nowadays. You kind of just say the most outrageous things so people click on your website and see ads. Okay, fine. I'll do it. It looks like ScreenRant has a few articles on Monster Hunter Wilds from multiple people. Most of these are just news on updates, usually a neutral take on new information that comes out, but not for Tom. Tom is pretty critical of Monster Hunter Wilds. He's just like me. Can't wait to hear what he has to say. I already teased the end of an era post, so let's see what else he has to say about Wilds. I hope more games borrow this feature. This praises the use of open world without it being oversized and being more compact. Wilds beta has shown me the series needs a good story. Needs? Well, it's probably the easiest element of Monster Hunter that could be improved overall. Everything else is already pretty top-notch. Wilds' best mechanic isn't even one fans want. So this is just about AI hunters. I guess some people like the AI bots to play with, but even so, the bots are pretty weak in this game. Wait, what's this? Monster Hunter has always been reasonably balanced even when playing solo, but that doesn't stop it from occasionally feeling a little too grindy. Monsters have huge pools of health, something that is worsened in Wilds. February 22nd, that's before the game even released. Tom, there is not a single use of the word beta in this article. Someone reading this would assume it's the base game. Like me. Huge pools of health that is worsened in Wilds. Tom, have you even played the game? Oh. I guess not. Yeah, that's right. That article that's been somewhat popular lately, The End of an Era, the same guy who's made at least 7 different articles on Monster Hunter Wilds, hasn't even played the full game. It's shocking, I know. Or maybe this is what you expect from gaming journalism. I mean, I definitely had higher expectations. My bad. Okay, listen. I like to be critical of Wilds, but I do so in good faith. I've played the game and given it what I would call a fair shake. But to nitpick Wilds and write negative articles about gameplay aspects you've never personally interacted with is crazy. Would you be surprised to hear that the entire Monster Hunter series isn't his jam? Like, why are you referencing Atomfall and Avowed as new, innovating RPGs and mentioning them in the same article as a Monster Hunter game? Sure, they're all RPGs, I guess, but RPG is so generic and vague nowadays. Like, Stardew Valley is an RPG, so it's probably fair to compare it to Monster Hunter 2, right? By the way, Claire Obscure is mentioned 4 different times in this article. This entire thing reads like this. Monster Hunter Wilds is a bad RPG game. Instead, please try and play the RPG games that I like. Something made me hold back from Wilds. Did it? Was that something your disdain for the series in general? Okay, let's pull back a little. Let's see what they have to say about the beta and why it's not for them. I go on to mention AI bots. Hunting for materials, a chore I hated in past Monster Hunter games. I definitely wouldn't call it a chore, but I have one defining moment that I did think it was a chore, and it was when I was farming Almatron for gems. I mean, we probably had like over 100 kills, and I still didn't get enough gems for the water elemental weapons I was making. But regardless, Capcom has failed to cater to my ridiculously specific and unreasonable requests. Not that it should, of course. You couldn't be more right. I think the fact that I haven't enjoyed Monster Hunter Wilds is a good thing. Definitely a interesting choice of words. However, the fact that I continue to struggle to grasp Monster Hunter's complex combat in Wilds is indicative that hardcore veterans are still being catered to. I mean, there's tutorials for everything. This game does everything in its power to teach you step by step on the basics. But it is a valid criticism because while Wilds does well at teaching the basics, it shares the same missteps from previous games of never mentioning certain key inputs or continuing to use vague descriptions on skills that make it so frustrating to engage with, like latent power. Increases affinity and reduces stamina depletion when certain conditions are met. Okay, what are the conditions? I know the conditions, I'm just making a point here, don't tell me what it does. It's just annoying that some skills will say things like, something will happen when a certain thing happens. This is what I think a valid criticism of Monster Hunter looks like. However, Tom wouldn't really know to include something like this because he doesn't really play the game. It does sound like he's played previous games, but the fact that he never goes into any specific details makes me think that he either played only through low rank or just kind of played with his eyes closed. With how my expectations have plummeted through this video, I wouldn't be surprised if it was the latter. Let's get into what started this deep dive, the end of an era. Yes, the end of an era to a game that sold like way more copies than its previous installments. It's dead in the water, no hope, it's over. Amazing rage bait, Tom. This is the kind of stuff I see on Steam reviews. It's good. Okay, enough. Let's see what it actually says. By the way, it wouldn't be a Tom article about Monster Hunter without referencing Claire Obscure. What was once just another entry in a beloved RPG series has now perhaps become its very last game. Tom, do you really think that? Oh, one other thing, Tom loves using this picture in his articles. I think I've seen it at least twice now. Actually, both of these articles use almost exactly the same photos. He's just got like a little folder with 5 or 6 photos he keeps saved in case he's got to write another Monster Hunter article. Wilds was targeted at a broader demographic and as such is significantly easier. But the lack of challenging content at launch and disappointing title updates means that veterans haven't had much in the way of enjoyably difficult hunts to embark upon. First off, each title update has been good, well received, and I think only a few things wrong with them that only like a small amount of people would have problems with. But again, not like Tom would know, he just sees red number and assume everything's bad. Second off, I find it strange. You admit your personal feelings on the game of thinking it's too hard or too high of health pools and the combat being too complex in this article. You see, most of these articles have tons of I statements, comments relating to their experience and how they see things, especially considering this part of the article is based on reviews and what people are saying. So, go ahead, Tom. You played the beta? Give us your opinion. Tom goes on to say that, regardless of performance issues, what can't be fixed is the core gameplay, which has in many cases been toned down to appeal to newcomers. But don't ask for any examples because he hasn't played the game, and is just going off random things he sees online. And that's what we're talking about, baby. Peak journalism, when you just write stuff about what you've heard and refuse to elaborate.
You're doing a great job! A great job! We'll tell him! A great job!
Don't worry, we're not done. In Tom's article, Wilds needs a good story now more than ever. The lack of narrative makes the experience less memorable. I've skipped every story in Monster Hunter except for Wilds because I was told it would be good. I've skipped GU, World, Rise, even with unskippable cutscenes, you'll catch my ass alt-tabbing and doing anything else besides watching a cutscene. Now, would it surprise you to hear that I still find these games extremely memorable, and I'm 99% confident that whether I know the story or not would change how I feel? Because it's true. Also extremely confusing for me to see someone who's clearly story-driven, like Tom, pick up a Monster Hunter game expecting anything. Unfortunately, we won't get Tom's perspective on the story because, again, hasn't played the game. But that isn't why I wanted to talk about this article, it's for this reason. Loading into an area just so I can run around for 40 minutes. Obviously, it's a common trope for gaming journalists to be bad at video games, but I mean, you'd think someone who's dedicated their entire career to a thing like video games and talking about video games would at least be good at them. It's kind of mind-boggling. But 40 minutes to hunt a monster is a big red flag, assuming it's one monster. And this isn't meant to be mean, but if your hunts are lasting that long, then you are doing something wrong in a big way. With how Tom talks about the series, I wouldn't be surprised if he's only played the previous games begrudgingly, and any attempts at getting better at the game was halted by his venomous outlook on the series as a whole. But let's be fair to Tom. Not everyone clicks with Monster Hunter, totally understandable. He goes on to say, I've spoken to a lot of diehard Monster Hunter fans, and they've all told me that I clearly don't understand it. That's absolutely fair. I think that happens to a good amount of people. But those people who it didn't click with probably don't go on to gleefully write negative articles about the game.
Great job!
Mentions AI bots again. A compelling narrative is a very good incentive to get through boring chore-like gameplay. Alright. I just wanted to make the video about the end of an era article, but after getting further in and reading this specific statement, Tom doesn't simply dislike Monster Hunter, he hates it. Boring chore-like gameplay. Good lord. Let's see what Tom thinks is good gameplay then. My dream game. A RoboCop game that's a first-person shooter. Yeah, this game actually looks kind of sick. They do this thing where you can ricochet bullets off surfaces to hit enemies, kind of like the movie. But let me pretend I didn't like it and be Tom for a second. This game has a compelling narrative, and it's a very good incentive to get through the boring chore-like gameplay of clicking my cursor on an enemy's head and getting to the next mission. So stupid. I think with enough I think with enough disgust, you could sweep any kind of gameplay under the boring chore-like gameplay rug. Like, wow, Dark Souls has boring chore-like gameplay. You go to a bonfire, kill monsters to get to the next, and then repeat. But you won't catch Tom writing about the specifics on the combat in Monster Hunter, because, you guessed it, that would require him to engage with the game itself. So I've also talked about the negative reviews on Steam, tried to engage with what I was seeing, compared it to my experience, tried to be fair while also poking fun at it. As someone who's critical of Wilds, after I read all the articles Tom has wrote about Monster Hunter, it's pretty clear of these two things. Tom hates Monster Hunter and writes these articles maliciously, or he just likes to write rage bait articles for attention and clicks. Or both. I think it's both. Does it matter? Not really. Gaming journalism is slop anyways, and 95% of them are never really taken seriously, and the only time you're relevant is when you pop off saying dumb shit. Okay, that was mean. The comments are pretty unhinged as well, mostly talking about PC players are big babies and console is better and all that. It's just like, oh my god, man. This is something I wasn't able to really go into with the Steam negative reviews because, well, Steam is PC. But it's just a bad statement to make. While the performance might be better on console, you're saying that you're fine with how things are now. You're okay with Capcom putting a low investment into optimization. While you're championing how Wilds works fine, this means in the future expansion or games, it could get worse. A low investment in optimization is great until it eventually affects you. Of course, when that time comes, it requires some kind of self-reflection that I'm not entirely sure people who post comments like this have the capacity for. Anyways, real quick, while searching through screenrant, I found this other author who has a few Monster Hunter articles as well, but this one caught my eye. Hello, Bruno. Regardless of what you're about to say, you're going to look like a saint compared to Tom. I hope. I'll never return to Monster Hunter Wilds if Capcom doesn't fix the worst problem, and it's not performance. I'll give you some time to think about it. It's Elder Dragons. The worst problem is no Elder Dragons. He does mention Apexes and understands that they are to replace Elder Dragons in this game, but he describes Elder Dragons as a different category, especially in terms of difficulty. I think there's an argument to be made that Apexes and Elder Dragons are vastly different in many ways, but I don't think the difficulty issue in Wilds stems from the lack of Elder Dragons. With how often Ray Dow got dunked on during the story and how absent the rest of the Apexes are, they definitely don't feel like a legendary type creature that Elder Dragons are described as. It never feels like they run the show in their locale, and more seems like that locale's toughest monster. But I'll give it to you, Bruno. This article definitely reads as someone who's at least played the game and understands it. But again, it's riddled with the classic clickbait phrases, never return, worst problem, desperately, beyond salvation. Bruno's other articles read like a real fan. There's love for a flagship monster, guiding newer players, and how to fight a chicken. I figured I'd put Bruno in at the end of the video to give a nice cleanse and sanity wash after talking about Tom so much. So I said all that and was going to move on to winding the video down until I saw Tom released another article on Monster Hunter Wilds. 2025's most overhyped RPG doesn't deserve a free pass. Now, I've soured on anything Tom related, so I didn't have high hopes for this article, especially when the second sentence again mentions Claire Obscure Expedition 33. I decided to look into this since I couldn't really believe it happened again. This isn't just a Monster Hunter issue, it seems more of a Tom thing. Every single article he writes, there's like a 50-50 chance he mentions Claire Obscure. This article and the previous article that was posted 2 hours before this both open almost word for word the exact same way, referencing Kingdom Come and Claire Obscure. But let's read more into it. I eventually caved, if only to be better acquainted with exactly why everyone is so intensely hating on it. He has bought the game. We can't keep giving Capcom the benefit of the doubt. In which Tom references Dragon's Dogma 2 and explains that the fanbase does too much defense for the problems Capcom has had in terms of optimization. Okay, let him cook. The good does not outweigh the bad when it comes to Wilds. Well, that's debatable, but I'm listening. I wrote that this could mark the end of an era for Monster Hunter. I still stand by that sentiment, even if it is a tad dramatic. Well, he's self-aware. That's good. Monster Hunter isn't gone, but the era of unmitigated masterpieces is. Listen, Tom, you're not a big Monster Hunter fan, so I'll let you know. World was far from a masterpiece on release, with optimization issues and gameplay changes. The same could be said about Rise. It had confusing gameplay changes, rampages were a bit of a disaster, and I don't think it was a masterpiece by any means. Until these games got their updates and expansions. Now there's something to be said about the practice of releasing broken games to work towards a finished product. Imagine having to wait a year to be able to properly use a new fridge, TV, or washing machine you bought. Capcom needs to better optimize its game prior to launch. It's a dramatic comparison, but it's easy to understand what's being said. I'll knock this article for talking about problems he's already discussed in other articles and, the same usual 5 photos. But unironically, this is what I was looking for when I first read Tom's articles. This is something engaging, it's interesting, it's got a valid point to the state of Monster Hunter games. More of this, please, Tom.
A great job!
So, my ending makes less sense now. I'll still say gaming journalism is just professionally clickbaiting you to show you some ads. And don't worry, I'm also self-aware being someone who makes YouTube content. Tom, if you want to be critical about Monster Hunter without seeming like an uninformed bandwagoner, just do a slightly bit more research. Just do journalism. This article right here is in the right direction. I actually did have some interest in Tom's articles because obviously he was critical about Monster Hunter, so I was looking forward to reading something more professional in terms of criticism that isn't just Steam reviews. But instead, I kind of got like a low-effort Steam review with too many words. Until this article, of course. If you're someone who is interested in what people think about Monster Hunter Wilds, unironically, just read the well-stated Steam reviews, the ones with effort. You'll get more information there than some random journalist, which is kind of sad. I also referenced the fact that Tom hasn't played the release version of Monster Hunter Wilds, and that's changed now, quite a few times. I think it's fine to have negative opinions on a game you haven't played. Like, that sounds weird to say, but it's common, and you probably do it without even thinking about it. Like, a lot of people will shit on the yearly iteration of Call of Duty without playing it. It's common. But again, I expected more from gaming journalism, and when I read an article, I assumed that the author has played the game. Again, my bad. I'm dumb, I guess. They have played the beta, but I really don't think just playing the beta is enough to share the experience on Wilds as a whole. I had vastly different experiences and opinions from the beta to the full release, and I think it's a cop-out to just say, oh, he played the beta, so he gets it. Especially if you're going to make comments on the end game of a game you haven't played. Okay, I'm done. Let me know how gaming journalism has hurt you. I mean, at least 7 articles about Monster Hunter and a handful of them being super negative about Wilds, and you've never played the release version? That's crazy, right? Are my standards too high? That's changed now that he's got the game, and I'm actually invested what he might have to say, but anyways. Thanks to my beautiful Patreons. It's cheap to join, and it goes a long way. Thanks to you for watching, and I will see you later.
No doubt about it. I am ready to get hurt again.
Mine. Oh hell yeah!
Make sure you grab the. Oh, yeah, nice.
Ah! Yo! There's no way. Dude, you guys are such fucks, dude.